Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, Eco Nostalgia here, and welcome to my review for Guns of Icarus Alliance. The first thing to mention about Guns of Icarus Alliance is that it's a DLC for Guns of Icarus Online, but you don't have to own Guns of Icarus Online to buy this. It's really weird. It's kind of like its standalone thing, but it now includes the original game as well. So you can get Guns of Icarus Online without Alliance for $5, or you can buy it as a package deal. It comes with everything now for $17.99. There's a lot of confusion about this, and it seems to be really pissing people off. Now, the difference between the two titles on Steam is that if you were to just buy Guns of Icarus Online, you'd only be getting the PvP. If you buy Alliance, you get PvP plus the PvE content that was recently added to the game. If anybody is still confused out there, you're scratching your head thinking, what the hell is going on? Just know that I'm going to be talking about the PvP and the PvE. This is going to be a complete review. I'm going to treat it like you've never heard of this game and you have no idea what the hell is going on. Now, before I dive right into this and start talking about the graphics and controls and everything, you have to understand that this is a ship-to-ship combat game, and what that means is that you're going to be functioning as one unit. If you don't function as a unit, if you're not good at playing as a team member, taking orders from your captain and working together, you're not going to last long. It's going to be a very fast uninstall for you and refund. Because if that's how you're going to play, people are just going to yell at you, they're going to get frustrated with you, and you're going to find yourself on the losing side more often than not. So even if you're coming into this game for the PvP, and you're a PvP-minded person, you're not going to be playing this as an individual. This is still a cooperative experience, no matter what you choose to do. To start off the review, we're going to be talking about the graphics. Now, you have to bear in mind, guys, this is a game that came out in October of 2012, so it's not going to look like the best of them out there right now. However, that's not to say that the game is ugly. It's not a bad looking game. It looks pretty good. The particle effects are nice. The smoke and the atmosphere that they've created in this game are really nice. There's a grainy film effect that you can turn on or off. Most people honestly are probably going to turn that off. I leave it on because I like that old-timey classic feel. I like the steampunk vibe that they've got going for this game. It's very Final Fantasy VII. That's the first thing that comes to my mind because that's where I was introduced with steampunk, right? That's where a lot of people were first introduced to steampunk. So this is something that I think it immediately hits a nostalgic note for a lot of people. It's hard to resist the urge to stand in front of the helm and just imagine yourself as Cid on the high wind, getting ready to save the world from Shinra. You know, meteors coming down, the shit's about to hit the fan, and then it dawns on you. I'm not a captain at all. I'm not the captain of this ship. I'm just a dirty engineer. I go around playing whack-a-mole all day, fixing things. In terms of character models, they look pretty decent, and there's a fair amount of customization here, so you're not really going to run out of different ways to customize the way your character looks. And there is a cash shop if you're so inclined. You can go in and you can buy things that look really cool, or you can just unlock things by leveling up and playing the game. On a side note, I should mention that the cash shop is not too intrusive. There was nothing in there that was really crazy. There's no pay to win going on here. Everything is pretty modestly priced. The most expensive thing I noticed was like a $6 outfit that you could buy. In terms of sound, this is an area where I think Guns of Icarus really excels. The sound of the guns, the sound of the damage that the ship takes, the wind, everything sounds really nice. It's got a really nice presentation to it, and it creates even more atmosphere. Games like this, I think it's really important to create that atmosphere, and I think that they were really aware of that when they were building the game. The music, it seems like it comes in dynamically. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just noticing it at those different points, but it definitely seems like when you get into a fight, it picks up in tension, and when you're not in one, it seems to just kind of idle along, which is something that I've always liked. As soon as they started adding that into games, I thought it was the coolest thing, and it still is cool to me to this day. Moving along to controls, I'm only going to be talking about the mouse and keyboard here, but I did notice on the Steam page it said that it only has partial controller support. So that's just something you guys should be aware of if you happen to have an aversion to keyboard and mouse. I, on the other hand, do not, and everything functions pretty solid here. Now, one thing that is kind of touch and go with this, is it feels a little floaty. It's one of those games where when you move around, it just takes a little bit of time to get used to it. It's not uncommon when the shit hits the fan and you're trying to run around and repair everything to kind of misstep and fall to your death. In terms of firing the weaponry, everything feels really nice. Steering the ship as the captain feels really good, so the controls are nice. But like I said, it feels a little floaty when you're moving around the ship. It's nothing too obnoxious, but it's definitely there slightly. And that brings us to performance. I have a GTX 960 with a 4 GHz 8-core AMD processor and 32 GB of RAM, and the game can run a little sluggish when you take in consideration that the fog in this game can be pretty thick in certain areas. That seems to be the main culprit for me when things start to slow down a little bit. Now, bear in mind that I do have the graphics put all the way up, and I could go right in there and turn things down. I just don't choose to do so because it's not that big of an issue. Now, most of you guys are going to be able to run this without a problem, unless you have something that happens to be a potato. If you have a potato that has aluminum foil coming off of it, that'll do. But if you don't have any aluminum foil, you won't be able to run the game. But seriously, this is a game that's going to be very easy for most people to run. And that brings us to the most exciting part of the video, the gameplay, guys. I'm going to be breaking this down in 2 subcategories. I'm going to be talking about the PvP and the PvE aspects of this game. First up, I'm going to talk about the PvP. The different game modes in PvP are Deathmatch, King of the Hill, and Crazy King. Deathmatch is pretty straightforward. You can imagine you just go around and you shoot each other out of the sky. However, King of the Hill has a central point that you have to try to capture and hold. Crazy King has several different points that pop up and they alternate. I haven't played Crazy King, but it sounds pretty interesting. I haven't played the PvP in a few months, and I think that's something that came out relatively recently. Now, this wouldn't be a ship-to-ship combat game if you didn't have multiple different ships that you could outfit and bring into battle. Now, I'm not going to go through and name off all of the ships, but there's several different types. Some of them are smaller and they're faster, more maneuverable ships. Others are a little bit more clunky, a little bit slower, but they have more firepower. You also have to take into consideration a smaller ship is going to be a little bit easier to repair. It might go down quicker if you don't have people on it. But at the same time, if you have a huge ship, it's that much harder for your engineers to get around and repair everything. Now, on these ships, you do have different weak points. You can attack somebody's balloon, for example, and that's going to make them lose altitude. You can take out their engines, and that's going to bring them down to a crawl so that they can't get away from you. It's essentially like taking out their sails. And the main thing that you want to do here is you want to crack their hull, and then once you crack their hull, you can apply pressure and take out their ship entirely. Now, there are certain weapons that are better at taking down the armor on the hull, and there are ones that are better at hitting the hull once the armor is down. Knowing the difference in when to use these different weapons is really going to make or break your team, and you're going to find a lot of times that if you get into randoms, you're going to find people who don't know what the hell they're doing with these weapons, and it borderlines on hilarious to frustrating. And this carries over to engineers as well, and it's probably more lethal with engineers because these are the guys that are tasked with keeping your ship afloat in the first place. And if they're using the wrong tool to try to keep you afloat, they're just going to be less effective. And it doesn't really help when you have more tools in your arsenal than were originally available when I first started the game. Now, for example, you can bring things where you can brace the hull even more, and you can give it like an extra armor that lasts something like 300 seconds. There's also an automatic repair tool that you can use. I've never used this yet. It's still kind of new to the game. I don't know if it came out with Alliance or if it was in the game before that. But like I said, I've been away for a few months. But you can use these different things. And the captain can use these things too, like moonshine. He can dump into the engines. It makes the ship go fast, but it also damages the engines, so there's a trade-off. If he doesn't know what he's doing, he can do way more harm as a captain than good. Essentially, my point is this is a game that when you first get into it, it can be a little daunting. It can be a little intimidating. You're going to be looking at all these different types of shot, and you really need to sit there and look at them and understand them for a little while before you get in there. Now, you do have incendiary ammunition that's obviously going to catch things on fire. You have greased rounds that are going to fire faster. You have charged rounds that are going to do a little bit more damage. Burst rounds, I think they do more damage as well. You have less mock rounds. I hope I'm saying that right. They go further so that you can kind of snipe at a distance. They don't drop off as nasty as well. If you have a weapon like a mortar, for example, that seems to really have a nasty trajectory, you can put the less mock rounds in there and it's going to go further and it's going to kind of correct that drop off. Not to mention you have different types of guns on the ship as well. You'll have flamethrowers. Some things will be like mortars. Some things will fire single missiles. You have Gatling guns. So you don't just have all these different types of ammo. You have different types of weapons to load that ammo into. So when you add all this different ammunition that goes into all these different guns that needs to be repaired with all of these different tools, it adds a lot of variety, more so than any other ship-to-ship combat game, but that can also be intimidating. However, it's one of those games where after a few matches, man, you really got the basics down. It might take a little bit of time before you really understand everything on a fundamental level to what to bring, where, what ship to bring it on. That's the kind of stuff that takes time. But a game like this, it's fun because you don't get all of the answers right away. If you don't know what you should be bringing on a Pyramidion, if you don't know what guns are going to be the best on a Goldfish, that's okay. You don't need to know those things right away. That will come to you eventually. Now, one thing that is nifty, if not a little obnoxious, is that the captain can tell you what to bring. Now, he can only suggest it. You don't have to do it. But if you have a kit that works for you and you really like it, man, it can be kind of frustrating when somebody's like, no, it's my ship, these are the guns I have, and this is the strategy we're going to be taking. And you know damn well you really should be listening to him because he knows what he wants to do. So you really should be taking what the captain tells you to take, but sometimes you just want to say, to hell with you, I'm bringing what I want to bring. But it is a nice feature that I think helps to keep the cooperative gameplay going. It helps keep the communication going. This is what I need from you. Please bring this. Okay, you didn't. Oh well. And that brings us to the PvE part of this review, guys. Now, when you first start playing the PvE, you're going to notice that you have to pick one of 4 factions. You have the Fjord Baronese, the Anglian Republic, the Order of Celadon, and the Mercantile Guild. The only differences between these factions that I can discern right now is that it looks like you're going to be working towards different kinds of gear. For example, the Anglian Republic has this really cool looking Arctic set that I don't think you can get any other way than playing as that faction. I could be mistaken, I don't know, maybe this is something that you can get just by playing the game, but it looks like that's the only real difference. Now basically all of this faction stuff boils down to a map that you're going to be deploying on. You can pick different areas to deploy in, and you can spend money to increase the troops there or increase the defenses there for your war's effort. The other factions are going to be doing the same thing. At the end of this, you don't really get anything for it, but there is a leaderboard and there are leadership roles. The more you participate in this and the more gold you spend, the more money you throw at it. Not real money, in-game money. Just to be clear, the more you participate in the effort, the more you can kind of become a leader in the community. And then you can choose to tell people where to deploy. Hey, go here or go there. And people will recognize you'll have something next to your name to show them this is a faction leader, this is somebody who's been playing a lot, I should probably listen to this guy. But for factions, that's as far as it really goes. And to me, it feels like it's a little shallow just because I'm always looking for that carrot on a stick. I keep talking about it. I know you guys are probably sick of hearing that phrase here on the channel, but that's something that I crave as a gamer. Ever since I really got into RPGs, ever since like The Legend of Zelda on NES, I've always wanted that next weapon, or I wanted that next ring so I could get the better armor. I'm always looking for something to keep me going, and I think a lot of gamers are like that. I talked to Bubbles from Muse, and he said that he's open to suggestions, and I did say, hey, it would be nice if you had something that at the end of these campaigns, maybe you get a hat or an eye patch or something. I know it takes time for them to develop these things, and they can't really throw things that are already into the game. I mean, they're at certain levels you unlock them, or they're cash shop items, and that takes away from the money that they make. But it would be nice if they could develop some small things like that just to add to your character, give you something to really look forward to when you win these campaigns, other than the recognition alone. But I think it's worth mentioning that these developers, they're very active. You're going to see them on the forums, you're going to see them in the game talking to people in the chat, you're going to see them on your ship from time to time. You might end up on their ship. They do play the game, and that's one of the things I love about Muse. And I've loved these guys for the past 5 years. I mean, they're really dedicated developers, and they care about their game. They're passionate about it. You can tell. I mean, it's one of those things where you can't fake that kind of shit. You can't be in your game every day, playing with the community, talking to them, hosting events, and not give a shit. As a matter of fact, the outfit that I have on right now on my engineer is a cash shop item that goes for $6 right now. I happened to win 2 or 3 years ago when there was a tournament being hosted by the developers. Angry Joe and Total Biscuit, everybody was involved in it, and we kicked their ass. We stomped the devs, but you know, I think they let us win. I think they let us win because we just decimated them, and everybody got free stuff. It was really nice, and they do stuff like that all the time. Now, despite the fact that there's nothing really at the end of the rainbow when you do win and you happen to get resources at the end of a campaign other than the recognition, it's still a lot of fun. When I get out of work and I see that, oh shit, we're losing this battle, it feels like, okay, now I need to play for a little while to get caught up here. Or if you're about to go to work, and you can tell I'm playing this a lot. I'm talking about before I go to work and after I get out of work. You'll be thinking to yourself, shit, I wish I could play a couple more matches, throw a little bit more money at this so that we have a better chance. But hey, you know, being a grown-up, I gotta go adult and shit like that. It's my philosophy that any game that makes you want to stay home is a generally pretty decent game, right? Most games don't do that to me now. I mean, let's be honest. Most people in their 30s don't feel that way about video games anymore. You kind of get a little jaded. But this is one of those ones where really it feels fun to come back. You want to keep playing it. You want to stay invested in it. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they have the faction thing going on. In terms of the different game modes for PvE, you have Defense, Assault, Infiltration, Intercept, and Search and Destroy. And there's a pretty decent variety of maps here. I've got over 20 hours of gameplay in this DLC, and I feel like things aren't really repeating a lot. There's a lot of variation in the way that the weather works, and the atmosphere is fantastic. There are 4 different difficulties, ranging from normal to hell, and from what I'm hearing, hell is pretty nasty. I've not tried it, I don't have the skills to try it, but from people that have been playing this game for years, they're getting a good challenge out of it, they're satisfied with it. It's going to take a lot of coordination and teamwork to play on the higher difficulties. And at the end of every match, you can vote on the difficulty, and you can vote on which mode. Another nice thing about Alliance is that you can just go out with one ship. So if you've got 3 friends, you've got a game going. You don't have to wait for 2 ships to fill up like you used to with PvP. You can have up to 3 crews, which means you're going to have 3 captains flying around with 3 people on the deck with them. And it takes some time for it to fill up, but not too long. This is a game that, let's be fair, it doesn't have a huge population. It's not League of Legends or something, but the population is dedicated. This game is not dying anytime soon. So if you log in and you see 300 people playing or 200 people playing, don't freak out. It's been like that for a while, and those people are on all the time. You're always going to find a game. Now, I have noticed that Alliance has been growing. When I first started playing, there was barely 250 at peak hours. We're now hitting around 500-600 at peak hours. So the word is starting to spread about this game, and that's good. You know, it's good that people know that Alliance is a thing. They had a little bit of a rocky start with it, and the way that it's been put on Steam to make it work with the already existing Guns of Icarus, I think has done a bit of damage. But I think that they're rebounding from that now. And really, that's been the point of this review, to bring this game to you guys, let you know it's a thing, let you know that I think it's an incredible game, because I could certainly be covering more popular games and get more views. I love this game. I'm reviewing this game because I genuinely care about it. I genuinely care about the devs who genuinely care about this game. So that's why I'm doing this review, and I urge you to check this game out. So that does it for this review, guys. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure you leave a like and hit the subscribe button if it's your first time coming through here. I'm going to be talking about Guns of Icarus for a long time. If you want to play the game with me, let me know. Get vocal down in the comments section. I am certainly willing to play with people. I thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video.
My life is shit.